Hello and welcome to the program. Today I'm Layo Olarinde. Let's begin in Ghana. The African Union is seeking to address issues related to African integration and to establish a unified stance before engaging with the G20 and the United Nations. Mauritania's president, who is also the current African Union chair, Mohamed Ghazouani, is urging for the acceleration of the African integration process at the Union's 6th mid-year coordination meeting in Ghana. Well, he stressed the importance of expediting economic integration to support the continent and also to fulfill the aspirations of African citizens. Discussions during the meeting centered on financing mechanisms for African Union projects, particularly the funding of the organization itself, which heavily relies on the contributions from non-African partners. President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria says the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, will continue to dialogue with Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to be able to maintain unity and will convene a special extraordinary summit on the future of the community. The president was speaking at the 6th mid-year coordinating meeting of the African Union holding in Ghana. Presenting the achievements of ECOWAS in the past 1 year at the 6th mid-year coordination meeting, President Tinubu added that the community has activated a standby force to counter terrorism and will continue to explore funding options.
While engagement with Guinea continues, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have announced their intention to leave ECOWAS. We will continue to engage these three countries with a view to maintaining the unity of our region. On regional security, we have taken major steps by activating the ECOWAS standby force to counter terrorism and banditry. ECOWAS finance experts will continue to meet to explore funding options for the standby force. With regards to governance and democracy, we continue to support our member states in enhancing electoral and governance processes. We have successfully managed some post-election dialogue, thus consolidating democracy in the region. In the area of economic integration, ECOWAS has implemented activities consolidated the free trade area, custom union, and common market.
International aid group Medicine Sans Frontiers, Doctors Without Borders, also known as MSF, says civilians in Sudan have suffered horrendous levels of violence during more than a year of conflict between the army and the rival paramilitary force, facing repeated attacks, abuse and exploitation by both sides. The physical and mental wounds of violence have been exacerbated by the collapse of the health system in the country and also a lack of international humanitarian response. MSF details how its teams had treated thousands of war wounded in areas affected by bombing, shelling of residential homes and the essential infrastructure. Across Sudan, people's access to life-saving care has been drastically affected due to shortages, widespread obstruction and looting of medical supplies, insecurity and attacks against patients and also medical staff, as well as the damage to the healthcare infrastructure.
The warring parties in Sudan have been inflicting horrendous levels of violence on people since the war started in April of last year. The report sheds light on the direct and deadly impact of the war on the people of Sudan, which has left the country's health service largely in ruins. Over the past 2 months, health facilities that we support have been repeatedly attacked and targeted. We were forced to suspend operations in Wad Madani in southeastern Sudan and most recently in the Turkish hospital in Khartoum. Since May, MSF-supported hospitals or premises have been hit by shelling or airstrikes at least 5 times in Omdurman, Khartoum, and El Fasher, leading to the deaths of health workers and patients, including children. Between the 15th of August until the 30th of April this year, the Al Now Hospital in Omdurman, one of 8 facilities that MSF is or has supported in Khartoum state, admitted a total of 6,776 war-wounded patients. This is on average 26 war-wounded per day. Half of these patients had gunshot wounds, 40% of them had shrapnel wounds, and 5% had been stabbed. At least 399 people died from their injuries.
In the meantime, foreign refugees in Sudan remain in limbo with no end in sight as the ongoing armed conflict causes more difficulties for them to return to their home countries. The armed conflict has displaced more than 10 million people, including hundreds of thousands of foreign refugees. According to UN statistics, Sudan housed about 1 million foreign refugees before the armed conflict. After the outbreak of the war, the foreign refugees affected by the war, like many Sudanese, have had to move to other areas free from the crisis, and many were even forced to move from place to place. Now, a shelter in the eastern Sudanese city of Port Sudan accommodates hundreds of displaced people, including dozens of foreign refugees. Converted from a school, the shelter is in poor conditions and overcrowded, almost entirely dependent on volunteers and humanitarian aid agencies to maintain its operations, with food, medicine, and other necessities in short supply.
Most of the people used to live after the donations of organizations. We lost almost, we leave everything behind us since we came in Khartoum. To return, it does what our wish, all of us, but we don't have even a single coin that we can pay to reach even at the Egyptian border.
We're in Kenya now. Officials are appealing for help to find containers of a highly toxic chemical that were looted from an overturned lorry near the capital city, Nairobi. The accident happened about 35 kilometers from the capital city, causing a spillage of sodium cyanide on the tarmac. After the lorry overturned late on Saturday, several containers were taken by people who rushed to the scene. Now, it is very common in Kenya for trucks to be looted following a road accident. The government is now urging people to avoid the site, which is on the busy Nairobi-Nakuru highway, while the U.S. Embassy is advising its citizens to take a detour. Health officials warn that sodium cyanide is dangerous and can kill if swallowed or inhaled, even in small amounts, adding that it also poses a major risk to the environment. The chemical interferes with oxygen use, leading to rapid death if ingested or inhaled in high doses. Let's get more on this now. Joining us is Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati in Nairobi. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me on the show.
What more can you tell us about these containers of this toxic chemical that are missing from the lorry accident?
Well, so far since yesterday when the alarm was raised by the authorities here, officials say that 8 out of 24 drums that were stolen from that site have been dropped on the road or in a forest. So they have only recovered 8 out of the 24 which were stolen. The authorities say they have not had any issue of, say, effect on the locals, but there is an ongoing search and kind of telling people what's going on and the dangers of having these things in their houses. There is a lot of operation in the area where the accident happened and people stole those drums, and we wait to see whether by tomorrow maybe there will be more recovery.
Now, are there reports on the driver, who was driving this lorry, and to where was this, the large amounts of chemical, where was it headed?
Well, the the chemicals were on transit according to the driver, and the lorry overturned the area. The area is common. It's a highway from Mombasa to Uganda, DRC. That common. It's an international highway. Someone to say. The accident which happened there on Saturday, he said he just lost control of the lorry, then it overturned. Then a crowd formed the area. He had to take off for his own safety. That's the time when now those people stole they came with the content of that lorry, not knowing what was there. They came to learn of what was there after there was an alarm raised by the health officials and the local security officials who are now involved in the search and the rescue mission.
Deadly chemical we're talking about, and according to the health ministry, this poses grave environmental hazards. What precautions are being advised to avoid coming in contact with this?
Well, there's a lot of kind of civic education in the area. They're telling people if you have got in touch with those chemicals, make sure you wash yourself, make sure you don't inhale those chemicals, make sure you run to the nearest hospital for help. The health officials have been equipped with more materials to help those who may run for help in the area. So it's more of an operation that is ongoing in the whole region to ensure that if those people who stole the drums from the lorry are getting effects of the same, they can be helped. So far, they're being told to wash their bodies, or their hands, their skins whenever they get in touch with those chemicals for their safety as a kind of precaution ahead of them going to hospital. But they're being told to rush to the nearest hospitals whenever if they got in touch with these chemicals.
Right, and finally, how are authorities, planning on retrieving the missing containers?
Well, today we saw when they were settled, they recovered 8 of those which were stolen, 8 of 24 which were stolen, and they were dropped in some trenches in the forest thicket. And because that shows you that the public had gotten news about, because all radio stations in the area, social media, they were all awash with those news about the chemicals. So they sent experts who are covered with gloves to pick up those chemicals to take back to the lorry and for safety transport to where they were destined to. So as we are speaking now, the officials there would covered well with protective gear to carry those drums which were covered.
All right then, Sarah Sombati, Kenyan journalist in Nairobi. Thank you so much, and do stay safe.
Thank you so much for having me as well.
Over the weekend, international aid group Doctors Without Borders, MSF, rescued 47 migrants off the Tunisian and Italian coasts in their third rescue operation carried out by crew members of the rescue ship Geo Barents in 24 hours. The 47 rescued people were brought to the rescue ship along with 179 other migrants who were rescued in 2 separate operations. Reacting to the migrants' crisis, Tunisia's Prime Minister has urged European countries to increase financial assistance to his country and others to help tackle the flow of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa.
Seeking for a better life, these 47 migrants were rescued on Saturday by charity group Doctors Without Borders. Many of them fleeing poverty and conflicts in Africa and the Middle East in their hope of a better life in Europe. This is the third rescue by the group. They had earlier rescued 179 migrants off the Libyan and Tunisian coast in 2 separate operations on Friday. Culminating to 226, the migrants rested and ate on board the ship while waiting to arrive in Italy. Doctors Without Borders staff distributed food and provided first aid on board. The Geo Barents has been assigned to the Italian port of Livorno for disembarkation. The rescued refugees share their stories after they were saved in different operations. 20-year-old Hassan Al-Kous fled his native city of Damascus to escape the Syrian war, aiming to reach Italy and then join his relatives living in Germany.
If you refuse to take a gun, they will kill you. So this is why I ran away from Syria, because the war is very difficult there. Look, I want to go to Germany because a lot of my parents living there. My uncle, my aunt, my friends, my brother. So I want to go to live with them.
Blessing from Nigeria said she left the country and reached Libya, where she was caught by the police and imprisoned. According to her, a Libyan couple bought her as a slave and kept her that way for 5 years without letting her contact her family.
So a friend of mine said, okay, let's cross to another country. So I decided to cross with them. All kinds God, Jobare rescued us successfully. That is my testimony from Nigeria to Libya, from Libya to Lampedusa.
24-year-old Shahid from Pakistan says he was tortured in Libya for 3 months and now wants to reach Europe to help his family.
I have arrested by a group of mafia in Libya. He tortured me for 3 months. He tortured me in Libya. After that, they kept her in the sea, near the sea, and then they pushed her in the sea. Now I want to be secure my life because my family needs me.
The 226 migrants were also attending Italian lessons on board, helped by the Doctors Without Border crew members as the rescue ship heads to the Italian port of Livorno.
In South Africa, the Western Cape Police faced a challenging weekend with at least 9 people found dead and several others seriously injured in various parts of Cape Town. According to Western Cape Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg, a deadly shooting in the Inyakatisa informal settlement in Fluleni resulted in the deaths of a 31-year-old woman and a 37-year-old man. A 4-year-old girl was also wounded and rushed to a nearby hospital. On Saturday, a 43-year-old was fatally shot in Aliam Street, Side B. Later that night, a 22-year-old man was killed and another person seriously injured in the Endlovini informal settlement. Additionally, 2 people were killed and 4 others injured in a shooting early Saturday morning in New Flats. No arrests have been made in any of these cases, and authorities are expressing deep concern over the mass murders in the area, even as the police board urges the South African Police Service management to bolster the resources allocated to the anti-gang unit to combat gang violence effectively. Meanwhile, a joint operation by South African officials has arrested 208 illegal immigrants, of which 176 are Zimbabweans. The other foreigners include Mozambicans and Indians, and they were arrested in the Sekuneni district of Limpopo province. Now, according to the Limpopo province police, the Indians are in custody awaiting deportation to their country. The South African Police Service, SAPS, in Limpopo also said suspected stolen properties were recovered at the Marble Hall and Groblersdale policing area. The Zimbabwean and Mozambican nationals comprising adults and minor children have been deported to their respective policing borders. Now, highlighting the state of its correctional centers and seeking ways to protect prisoners' rights was how Somalia chose to celebrate Nelson Mandela International Day. The chief of the UN Assistance Mission in Somalia's Joint Justice and Corrections Section, Nasreen Khan, was speaking at a joint event to commemorate the day, as well as to launch a UN assessment report on prison conditions in Somalia.
Prisons are sometimes the forgotten part of the prison system. Yet the conditions of our prisons and the rights of people within them are of profound importance. We start from a simple proposition. Prison should be a place of last resort. They're expensive, and unless prisoners are rehabilitated, they can leave with a higher chance of committing further offences. So today we want to take the opportunity to reflect how we can improve the conditions so that this doesn't happen. As we move forward, I'd like us to pledge to transform our prisons into places where respect for human rights paves the way for true rehabilitation. Let us work together to ensure that our approach to corrections is not only about containment, but also about contribution. Contribution to the lives of the incarcerated, their families, and ultimately to society.
System is operated in a militarized style, which has led to complications and inefficiencies. In response to these, the Minister of Justice, with the help of our international partners, has been working on a new corrections model, and that new model has been proposed with aims to establish a civilian-led correction services.
The Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds, SANCOB, is calling for the protection of critically endangered South African penguin species. Nick Stander, head of the conservation at the SANCOB, says the current rate of decline is 8% per year, and by 2035, these rare birds will be extinct. At their rescue center in Cape Town, employees continue to care for the endangered species of African penguin, feeding and cleaning the birds while they call to one another in short, raspy barks, and also tottering towards the swimming pool at the SANCOB. SANCOB launched a lawsuit against the local government in March, explaining its reason being the African penguin needs to be uplisted to critically endangered. The final decision on the animal's status is expected to be announced in October, when scientists will know whether they are suitable for the critically endangered category of the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List.
The science is showing that at the current rate of decline, which I've said is 8% per year, at that current rate, if it persists, by 2035, this penguin species will be extinct in the wild. We launched litigation against the South African government in March this year. And really, this was a difficult decision. We felt like it was the only thing left to do. And the reason why is because the African penguin, currently listed as endangered, but it is in the process of being uplisted to critically endangered. The population census that was done last year revealed that there were sort of less than 10,000 breeding pairs between Namibia and South Africa. It's our only penguin that we have on the African coastline, and the numbers continue to decline every year.
Nigerian medical doctor Fola David appears to have set a new Guinness World Record for the largest drawing by an individual after spending 6 days on his piece in a stadium in the commercial capital of Lagos. Dr. David says his 1,050 square meter Unity in Diversity artwork and image of two giant hens holding Nigeria's map is meant to showcase the country's rich cultural heritage. The project was a long-time dream for him, who first applied to attempt the record in 2015 but could not embark on it. Well, after applying multiple times and receiving approval from Guinness World Records, he finally brought his vision to life. Well, Dr. Davids is now awaiting certification from Guinness World Record, and if his artwork is certified, it will add to Nigeria's growing list of Guinness World Records and would also break Indian record holder artist Ravi Soni's 629.98 square meter piece.
Most people want to belong to a particular place, and then they, create problems and, fight against other cultures and all that, instead of learning about them, embracing them, and loving, each one of them. And I wanted to do this to show us that there is no border. We are all one. We are all together. And if you look at this, you will see that there is so much beauty in Nigeria, in our culture, in our multicultural heritage.
As people that are very confident of our art and our culture, we like to always prove ourselves to the world. So this is not even like a Nigeria's best thing. This is the whole world. This is Guinness Book of Record. And I feel like it's just putting our name name on the map even more. You know, Hilda Bassi did it, he's doing it, and I'm very sure that more Nigerians, Kafi did it too. Like, I'm just excited because it's putting our name on the map.
So Fola being a doctor and an artist, is to anybody else it might perhaps sound unusual in its collaboration, but it makes perfect sense. It's the essence of what Nigerians are. We're brilliant people and we're able to make the most and maximize out of very little.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.